Hello again, baseball fans, and welcome into episode number 22 of Ducks on the Pod. Hope you're recovered from the wild card round because it is now time for the division series. We're here today to talk about the American League side of things. I've got my good friend Evan Skilliter joining us later in the show. He's our Indians insider, and he's going to dive into that series with the Tribe and the Yankees, who won the wild card game on Tuesday night over the Twins. We've also got the Red Sox and the Astros on tap. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. All right, I'm going to start with the Boston Red Sox and the Houston Astros. The history lesson, most notably, these two closed out the regular season last weekend at Fenway. The Astros took 3 of 4 in that series, and back in mid-June, the Sox won 2 of 3 in Houston. But the Astros starters in that series were Mike Fiers, David Paulino, and Joe Musgrove, 3 guys that the Red Sox most likely will not see in this division series. The marquee matchup is going to be Chris Sale versus Justin Verlander. It's Sale-Verlander 7. They've matched up a few times, Chris Sale being formerly with the Chicago White Sox, Justin Verlander formerly with the Detroit Tigers. They've matched up quite a few times, and the numbers, just looking at them, Jose Altuve is 8 for 21 with a double and a home run against Sale, but none of the other Astros have had success against him. George Springer, Carlos Correa, Marwin Gonzalez, Carlos Beltran, Cameron Maybin, and Josh Reddick have a combined 13 hits in 68 at-bats against Sale. That's a 191 average. On the other end, Mitch Moreland is 10 for 33 with 6 doubles against Verlander, and none of the other Red Sox have had success against him. Eduardo Nunez has some good numbers, but he's played in just 2 games going back to September 8. And while the Sox are expecting to have him available for the series, it's just not clear how healthy he will be. So Dustin Pedroia, Mookie Betts, Hanley Ramirez, Xander Bogaerts, Eduardo Nunez, Chris Young, Brock Holt, and Rajai Davis are a combined 22 for 122 against Verlander. That is a 180 average. I picked those players, by the way, because I have a theory that says nothing's real until you reach 10 plate appearances against the guy. You can't read into the numbers until then. But once you get to that point, you can start putting some value on them because you know it's not just that small sample size that you're looking at. All those guys I mentioned have at least 10 plate appearances against the pitcher they'll be facing in Game 1. And it helps make my point here that this is going to be a pitcher's duel between 2 guys who have put on some classics in the past. Now, there is a piece from ESPN back in June when Verlander was still a member of the Tigers, and they were out there in Boston. A series actually that I went to and saw that game, but they were talking about the matchup between Sale and Verlander back in June there. And you can go read the numbers. I'm not a math guy, so I'm not going to update the ERA and whip totals and all that. Following that Sale-Verlander 6 matchup back on June 10, just know that Sale gave up 3 earned runs on 9 hits in 7 innings. Verlander also surrendered 3 earned, his on 5 hits and 4 walks in 5 innings. Calculate away if you'd like. I don't need the exact numbers to tell you this matchup. It's about as good as it gets. And I think Game 1 is going to be huge in this series. These teams met just last weekend, and even though the Sox clinched the East during the set, the Astros had their way pretty much the whole time in Boston. A shutdown start from Verlander would be a crushing blow to Boston. I'm not saying they're low on confidence coming into the postseason. I think this past week is one of the few times during the season when every team can hit the reset button and really start fresh. But if the Sox go down in this first game in Houston, you wonder if it might get to them more than it would under normal circumstances. They start to wonder, can we beat this team? The sooner the Sox answer that question, the better off they'll be. A lockdown outing from Sale would be a huge boost to Boston, one that I'm not sure they can win the series without. So yes, it's just the first game of a series that could potentially go 5, but when each team has their horse on the mound and they've both had so much success against the opposing hitters, and one team seems to have a hold on the other, the way the Astros do the Red Sox, Game 1 is the biggest of them all. I'd be shocked if these two, Verlander and Sale, aren't matching each other pitch for pitch into the 7th inning. That's my kind of baseball, and I am stoked to see the 7th installment of this heavyweight bout. And that's not to mention the possibility of another matchup in a potential Game 4 or even Game 5 later on in the series. Watch out for the Boston Red Sox, man. Nobody is talking about this team. It is wild. All the excitement in the American League has centered on the Indians with their historic streak, the Yankees with their being good again, and the Astros with their scorching hot start and then cruise to a division crown. The team that nobody seems to give any sort of chance of reaching the World Series is the Boston Red Sox, the only of the remaining AL teams with a recent World Series title and some players left over from that run. There are young stars everywhere in this league. Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor in Cleveland, Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez in New York, Correa and Springer and company in Houston. But for whatever reason, people are overlooking Boston's fresh core of talent. Andrew Benintendi, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Mookie Betts make up the most promising group of outfielders around. Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers look like they could be the left side of the infield for years to come. And the Sox very well could have 5 of their 9 positions already filled for the next handful of years. Not many teams can comfortably say that. Then you look at the remaining 4 spots, the veterans who fill out this roster. You got Dustin Pedroia, a proven winner who will give literally everything he has for this team. You got Mitch Moreland, he's steady both in the field at first and at bat somewhere in the middle of the lineup. And then Hanley Ramirez, who's had pleasant experiences in the postseason during his career, despite being on teams that came up short. So when you're looking at the Red Sox, you're looking at a team that maybe doesn't have the hype surrounding them right now. But when you look at the guys that make up the team, they've certainly got the pieces to make a run here. Other news and notes, Marwin Gonzalez has been a revelation for the Houston Astros. They went through a period of injuries in the middle of the campaign with Correa missing half of July and all of August. Marwin Gonzalez is the single biggest reason why the Astros were able to weather that storm without giving up any ground in the AL West standings. The Red Sox bullpen, without any big names outside of Craig Kimbrell, has been supremely effective this year. They strike people out 9.81 per 9. That's 6th in Major League Baseball. They keep people off the bases, a 1.17 whip, 4th in the majors. They keep the ball in the park, 1 home run per 9, tied for 6th in the majors. To top it all off, they strand runners more efficiently than any other team in the bigs, 79.2%. Oh, and they have a multiple inning stopper now in David Price. During the last 2 weeks of the season, Price was able to familiarize himself with his new role, making 5 appearances out of the pen. He threw 8 2/3 total. He gave up 3 hits, all of those at Cincinnati on the 22nd. He walked 2 and struck out 13 batters. Now, this is the type of thing that can turn a series around. Price is an ace who's now coming out of the pen and can influence every game as opposed to just 1 or 2. David Price has a huge role to play if the Red Sox are going to beat the Astros. Let's make some picks, particularly in the home run department, and I'm going to do every game because why not? It's fun, including games 4 and 5, which might not even be played. So here we go. Game 1, I'm going to go Mitch Moreland and George Springer. Moreland for his great numbers against Verlander. He's never homered off him, but I think now is the time. And Springer has hit 9 leadoff homers during the regular season. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he did the same to kick off the ALDS. Game 2, I'm going Mookie Betts and Alex Bregman. Mookie is 1 for 4 in his career against Dallas Keuchel, but that one was a dinger. And Bregman's slugging .570 against lefties this year, and I foresee Drew Pomeranz leaving one center cut for him. In Game 3, give me Marwin Gonzalez and Mookie Betts again. Gonzalez will homer in this game provided Rick Porcello gets the ball for the Sox. He can hit from both sides, but he's been much better from the left. Gonzalez has, especially in the power department. And yeah, I'm taking Betts to go yard in 2 straight. I said it earlier, he's Boston's spark plug. He may be its player. And as he goes, they go. I'm expecting him to have a big series to keep his team in it. And at this point, it's hard to know who the pitchers are going to be in games 4 and 5. Hell, we don't even know if they'll be necessary. So the home run picks become even more of a wild guess based on a hunch. In Game 4, I'll go Jose Altuve and Dustin Pedroia. Altuve's, he's too good not to go with at some point, and seeing the little guy crush one over the monster would be fun to watch. Speaking of little guys, Pedroia is now 34, and with injuries starting to pile up, you just never know how long a guy can last. It would be nice to see him give Red Sox fans one more lasting memory. Game 5, man, I had to do it. Rajai Davis and Carlos Beltran. Here's where I give the older guys some love. Rajai, of course, hit that game-tying home run off Aroldis Chapman to send Game 7 of last fall's World Series into extras. And Beltran is widely considered the greatest postseason hitter of his generation, so why not these two? As far as a prediction, I have to go Astros in 4. Man, the lineup is just so strong. There are no holes, no easy outs, no chances for a pitcher to take a breath. They just keep coming at you. They can do it in so many different ways, whether it's hitting the ball out of the park, driving doubles into the gaps, spraying singles all around, or just running the bases intelligently. I think the Astros' offensive barrage will simply be too much for the Bo Sox to keep up with. The other American League Division Series pits the AL wildcard winning New York Yankees against the Cleveland Indians. The history lesson, they met 7 times during this summer, all in August actually. Most recently, the Tribe swept the Yankees in their own barn on the 28th through the 30th, with a rainout on the 29th, forcing a doubleheader on the 30th. These were wins 5, 6, and 7 of the Indians' Major League Baseball record 22-game win streak, by the way. At the beginning of the month, the weekend of the 3rd to the 6th, the two teams split a 4-game set. The Tribe took the first 2, Yankees salvaged by winning the next 2. Of course, we have to talk about that wild card game the Yankees won on Tuesday night. Twins second baseman Brian Dozier homered to lead off that game. Eddie Rosario, my home run pick, by the way, hit a 2-run jack 3 batters later. It was 3-0 before the Yankees even got to bat. Luis Severino recorded only 1 out. It looked bad, real bad, and could have easily been much worse had Chad Green not shut the door right then and there. When the Yankees did finally get to hit, Brett Gardner walked, Judge singled, and the Gregorius one, Didi Gregorius, smacked a 3-run shot to erase all the Twins' first inning damage. Then Gardner homered in the 2nd, Judge homered in the 4th, and the Twins were pretty much cooked at that point. The offense brought the excitement for the Yankees, but the bullpen brought the stability. Chad Green went to work early, mopping up for Severino. David Robertson threw more pitches and recorded more outs than he ever has before. Tommy Kahnle built the late-inning bridge to the closer, and Aroldis Chapman struck out the side to close it out. Those 4 combined for 8 2/3 of work. Surrendered just 5 hits, 3 walks, and just the 1 run. They struck out 13 batters. I told you to watch out for that bullpen, and that's exactly what won the wild card game for the Yanks on Tuesday night. So the marquee matchup in this series between the Yankees and Indians has to be the bullpen versus the bullpen. One manager has proven he is not afraid to use his pen to the max. The other seems to be afraid of what happens if he doesn't. Whatever the case may be with Terry Francona and Joe Girardi, we are surely in for A whole slew of pitching changes and a battle of the bullpens for the ages. We've got number 1 and number 3 in ERA, the Tribe at 2.89, Yankees at 3.34. Number 1 and number 4 in strikeouts per 9, the Yankees up above 10, the Tribe above 10 actually as well. Number 1 and number 3 in home runs per 9 at .85 and .88 for the Yankees and Tribe respectively. We've got the number 1 and number 5 bullpens in batting average against. Yankees with a 201 mark, Tribe 223. And we've got the number 1 and number 3 bullpens in whip. The Tribe at 1.14, Yankees at 1.16. We could go on. The numbers, they don't fall off. The point is, these two are the best bullpens in the game, no matter what your favorite stat is, really. And this series could end up being like the end of recess back when you were a kid, because the first team to score might very well win. Watch out for Edwin Encarnacion. This man just pulled off the quietest 38 home run and 107 RBI season baseball's ever seen. All of the publicity goes to Ramirez and Lindor. People are touting this team as the favorite because they came so close to winning it all last year, but it doesn't seem like they're even factoring in what a difference Encarnacion provides. The last time around, this lineup got the job done without a big bopper. Now they have one of the best in the game, and now you have to throw to Ramirez, or you're going to be stuck pitching to Encarnacion. You have to get Lindor out because chances are he scores whenever he gets on. Edwin Encarnacion's power bat is a huge upgrade made by the team that so nearly won the thing last year, and yet it seems he comes into this series under the radar. Other news and notes this year as opposed to last year, we all know what Cleveland's bullpen is capable of. Andrew Miller is back healthy and ready to go at any and all times again. What he did last year can't even really be put into words. I'll try anyway. He carried a team to heights none of us expected them to go. He eased the pain of playing a postseason with a crippled starting pitching staff. He revolutionized the way we, the fan, and even major league managers think about the role of a starter and the bullpen. He became an October legend without anyone knowing when he was actually going to pitch. You just tuned into every one of Cleveland's games expecting to see Miller go a couple of innings, strike out a few guys, and lead the Tribe to victory. More times than not, that's what we saw. It was a level of consistency and dominance the likes of which we've never seen. And the rest of the guys did a hell of a job too. They followed it up this season, and while they don't have the same name recognition the Yankees pen does, they have just as many guys you do not want to see jogging into the mound if you're the guy waiting on the on-deck circle. Cody Allen, Brian Shaw, Miller, Zach McAllister, who's now a full-time reliever getting the job done. I don't know Nick Goody's story, but he's had a great year as well. And the playoffs shorten your starting staff too, so now you've got Mike Clevenger and Danny Salazar hanging out back there. Francona just has a plethora of arms at his disposal, and the sheer number of trusted relievers he can turn to is an important piece in this matchup against the Yankees, who we know have a loaded stable of hurlers themselves. The home run picks in this series, I had some fun with these. Game 1, Aaron Judge and Edwin Encarnacion. I was going to pick Judge to homer in the wild card game because it seemed like too good of a story not to happen, but I reconsidered and went with Gary Sanchez. Let my mistake be a lesson. Don't second guess yourself, and also don't doubt Aaron Judge. Encarnacion, meanwhile, has 10 hits, including a home run, in 22 career at-bats against Masahiro Tanaka. I'm assuming Tanaka gets the start in Game 1 here. If so, watch out for Encarnacion. Game 2, Didi Gregorius and Francisco Lindor. Honestly, these are two guys I wanted to pick in Game 1, but I went with the boppers instead, so here are the shortstops. I'm going with the hot hand on the Gregorius pick. He had only one hit in the wild card game, but it was a huge one. And there's no doubt in my mind that Lindor will homer at Progressive Field in this series. I'm kind of hedging my bets here. Game 3, Carlos Santana and Greg Bird. Both of these guys are going to deposit one into the second deck in right field at that little bandbox they call Yankee Stadium. Game 4, give me Gary Sanchez and Jose Ramirez. These two are just far too good at hitters to be held out of the fun all series long. And Game 5, why not? Aaron Judge and Francisco Lindor. The game's best players get to that level by stepping up on the biggest stages. Judge and Lindor, young though they might be, are the best their teams have to offer. Now let's get a prediction. I'm going Indians in 5. I'm not even fully confident the Yankees can get to a 5th game. I think I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt following that crazy wild card game win over the Twins. But there is a special feel to this team, though. They have what it takes to win this series, but they need almost everything to go their way. Tanaka is going to have to tap into his dominant side. CC Sabathia will need to have a solid start at least. Severino is going to need to bounce back in a major way. Even then, the odds are stacked in the Tribe's favor. They've been here before. They have their recipe for success. Their fans have become rabid. And there's just an aura surrounding this team after that win streak that makes it seem like they just can't be beaten right now. I'm looking for a tight series with lots of late-inning drama, and that being the case, I give the edge to the more experienced Cleveland Indians. All right, Ev, so the Tribe get to host the New York Yankees, who won that crazy wild card game on Tuesday night. First of all, how confident are you that the Tribe can get the job done against those Yankees?
Yeah, I mean, more confident than ever with just the way things have gone this season. You know, we had that great run toward the end of the year. We finished the year very, very strong. So, I mean, why not? Why not be confident? Last year we went into the playoffs with our 1, 4, and 5 starter. This year we're going in with 1, 2, and 3. Pretty good 4 in the bullpen. So, man, I'm very confident, but as a Cleveland fan, you're always kind of cautiously optimistic, and that's kind of where I stand now. I think we have as good a shot as anybody, but at the same time, I know we're Cleveland. I know we should tread lightly.
So do you think you got the better draw having to play the Yankees, or would you rather have seen the Twins in this?
No, I think I would have
series?
rather have seen the Twins. I mean, you got a lot of guys on the Twins that, I'll talk about the Yankees, I guess. The Yankees have a very powerful lineup, very dangerous, and then the back end of their bullpen is incredible. And we're very familiar with the Twins, and they're not like a super impressive team from 1 to 9 in the batting order, and then their pitching staff is just kind of, to me, it looks kind of thrown together. So I definitely wanted to play the Twins, but you got to got to play with the cards that are dealt, and I'm still confident against the Yankees.
So yeah, you mentioned the power bats in the lineup, the power arms at the back end of the bullpen. What, if anything, about this matchup against the Yankees worries you as a Cleveland Indians fan?
Well, Aaron Judge is very worrisome. He's always worrisome with that bat. And I think what's crazy for me is that Todd Frazier didn't have the best year overall, but against the Indians he did. He played very well. I think he had somewhere around a 300 batting average against us this year. So when a guy that batted ninth in the lineup last night and kind of struggled throughout the year was having a good year against you, it's always a little scary to have to go up against him, knowing that the rest of the team is also pretty dang good. So he's definitely or not he, but just that lineup in general with Judge in there. Gregorius is great, and just going down that lineup, Gary Sanchez obviously is very scary, but he hasn't played very well against us at all this year. I think he has. I think he only had 2 hits and 22 at bats, if my memory serves me correctly. I tried to look up the matchups last night. So, yeah, I mean, it's a powerful lineup. And then as far as pitching goes for New York, to be fair, not a whole lot of guys had a ton of success against the Indians this year. Severino went 1-1, and he had, I think, like a 2.7 ERA against us in those 2 starts. So he did pretty well, but I don't think the starting pitching worries me as much as the back end of the bullpen. And, Chapman's a nightmare. We had to face him in our last couple playoff games, and now we're going to face him in our first couple. So, last couple last year, of course, when he was with the Cubs. So that's never fun to know that he's lingering in the bullpen.
To me, this is just shaping up to be an old-fashioned battle of the bullpens. I mean, The Yankees, yes, they are formidable at the back end with a lot of arms to go to, but really, when I look at the Indians, I see just as much there. I mean, what do you make of that? And really, how important is it to get an early lead in this series?
Well, it's huge. I think we definitely have the upper hand when it comes to starters. And so if we can get a solid 5, 6, 7 innings out of Kluber and, Bauer starting game 1, and then Carrasco as well, then we're going to be solid. We're gonna fight. And so it's good for us that the Yankees kind of burned some of their bullpen last night. Now they do have 2 days rest before they go again, so I don't know if that plays as big of a factor as some people think it will. But, I think the back end of our bullpen is great. Joe Smith, obviously Andrew Miller was huge last year, and Cody Allen at the back. You can throw Brian Shaw's name in there as well. And then if we need to go to long-term relief, we have Clevenger, who pitched incredibly well this year as well. So I don't think anyone's bullpen blows ours out of the water this season. By any means, and so I'm looking forward to a pretty good series, and if we can get that early lead, there's definitely no question that we're the better team.
What do fans who might not be very familiar with the Cleveland Indians need to know about your team?
If you're not familiar with the Indians at this point, I'm ashamed in you. Obviously, as a fan,
who's an X factor? I mean, who's a guy that maybe doesn't get the credit he deserves, but is going to play a big role in this series? Do you think?
Yeah, well, Michael Brantley. Michael Brantley's back from injury, and he had a good last game or two, and actually this year against the Yankees, he went 5 for 14. So he's had some success against these guys, and he's a guy that a lot of people have forgotten about, because when you look at our streak, we didn't have Brantley the whole time, and who else we didn't have was Jason Kipnis during the whole streak. So we have 2 guys coming back from injury that, even if you are familiar with us just from some of the hype surrounding us this year, especially during the streak, then you've kind of forgotten about Kipnis and Brantley. So definitely watch out for them, and a guy that has been quietly great for us this year has been Austin Jackson. A lot of people forgot that name, I think, for a little while. And Jackson actually, he batted .318 this season with 7 home runs and 35 RBI. So he played well, and that's not a .318 with just a couple of at bats. He had 280 at bats and played in 85 of our games. So he's definitely a guy to watch out for. Besides the fact that we have Lindor and Ramirez and Jay Bruce, Edwin Encarnacion, some of those guys that everyone's familiar with. A couple guys coming back from injury, like I said, and then watch out for Jackson.
So, what do you make of the whole Kipnis in center field thing? And then also, you mentioned it earlier, Francona's going with Trevor Bauer in the first game. How do you feel about that as opposed to Corey Kluber, who everybody knows is the Indians' ace?
Yeah, so, I guess I'll start with Kipnis in center field. I don't really care, to be honest with you, where he plays. I'd like to see him in the lineup at least for a couple games to see if he can be the Jason Kipnis he was before his injury this year. And last year in the World Series we played Carlos Santana in the outfield. It wasn't too big of a deal, so not too concerned about that. We'll just have to see kind of how that goes. Even if he doesn't play well, we have a lot of guys around him to pick him up, so not a problem there. As far as Bauer starting game 1, doesn't matter to me either. Trevor Bauer won 18 games this year. He's been an absolutely fantastic pitcher, especially in the second half. And so what that does for us is it gives Kluber, he pitches game 2 and then he'll pitch game 5 on regular rest. And Kluber came out this week and he said that he likes to pitch on regular rest. Obviously most people do, but if he were to pitch in game 1 and then turn around and pitch in game 5, then he'd have an extra day in there, and it would kind of throw off his rhythm. So it's okay with me. Bauer will be available out of the bullpen in Game 4 if we get into any trouble. I think it's Tomlin slated to start in Game 4, and he's not really a power pitcher, so it might be good to go from Tomlin to Bauer there in Game 4 if we have to. So not a big deal. It puts Kluber at an advantage because he gets to stay in his routine. And as far as Bauer goes, I don't think it's not like we're throwing a fifth starter out there. I mean, Bauer's been a great pitcher, and he's definitely solidified a role at the top or at the front of a rotation.
Anything else you want to add about this Indians-Yankees division series?
I don't know. I think it'll be very entertaining. I think the last playoff series I can remember where the Indians and Yankees squared off was the game where all those gnats came on the field in
Yes.
Cleveland. I don't know if you remember that at all.
I do remember the highlights on SportsCenter.
Yeah, I think it was Sabathia against Carmona, who Fausto Carmona has a different name now. I forget what it is, Felix Hernandez or something like that.
It's something very generic, not nearly as cool
Yeah.
as Fausto Carmona.
Right. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of a cool memory, and I'm sure we'll see some images of that throughout the series. But no, I think we're in for a good series. We're in for a great playoffs across the board. Really excited to see some of these matchups. So yeah, sit back, relax, and go Indians.
Thanks a bunch, Ev. And I want to ask you this right now. If the Indians survive to the ALCS, could you join us again and break down that series?
I'd love to. Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you soon, boss.
All right, man. Thanks for having me. Take it easy.
That's going to do it for episode number 22. Hope you got all the information you wanted on the American League Division Series. Thanks again to my good friend and our Indians insider, Evan Skilliter. Appreciate the insight there. Check back in with us tomorrow. That's Friday for the National League Division Series previews, where we dive into what's going on in the senior circuit. Until then, I'm Mitch Gatzke reminding you the 3 keeps of baseball. Keep your glove on the dirt, your bat off your shoulder, and always keep your eye on the ball.
Back, gone.